There are a few patterns in the fearful avoidant attachment style, and one of them is the highs and lows. One of them is the push and pull, and another one that I haven't talked about, I think, at all is the testing versus shame cycle. And they all kind of like coincide or weave in and out of each other. But let's just mention this one separately because it's interesting and it will help you to understand yourself a little bit more, which is such an important step to healing. And that is what I so want for you. So, first off, the testing versus shame cycle. This is not like an official psychological thing. I've never read anything about it using these terms or even, I think, describing this. It is something that I realized, that I noticed, and I started mapping out, as I do with a lot of things. um, so it is a cycle where you obviously test your partner, your relationship, your love, your feelings, and then you go into shame. And I will go into all of that. So first off, why do you test? With testing, I mean actually quite a lot of things. Testing could be picking fights, being mean to your partner, pushing them away in whatever way, using the activation mechanisms, whether you're conscious or unconsciously using those, um, saying things where you want to see how they react, testing them by putting yourself in certain situations where you see how they would react. And to give you concrete examples, because I know you like that and I can totally understand why. Um, I think I would test Aryan, my then boyfriend, now husband, in so many ways. I would watch romantic movies with him and see what his reaction was. And if it wasn't the reaction that I wanted, I would get angry. I would pick fights. I would say certain things like, um, oh gosh, can't think of an example right now. For instance, we would see each other this weekend, and then I would say, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it. And what I wanted him to say was, no, but I really have to see you, and how can we make that work? And his reaction would be, oh, okay. Well, what's going on? And when can I see you again? But it was never passionate enough for me. So I think testing means you do something, say something, do something to elicit a certain reaction, and you have in your head a kind of image of what that reaction should be. And the should means that if they have that reaction that's in your head, then they love you enough. Then this relationship is all right. Then you are safe. That is what you're looking for. So, why do you test? Apart from what the testing looks like, maybe we can all share in the comments the ways we test our partner, because I think we are usually kind of aware of it. But why we test, we might not be aware of that. We might think that we just genuinely want to know if they love us and whether this relationship is right. But why you really test, first of all, is because you're afraid of rejection and afraid of abandonment. And testing is definitely a way to see if somebody loves you unconditionally. Mm, and a lot of fearful avoidants are so scared that they aren't loved unconditionally, because chances are you haven't had that when you were a child, in your childhood. So, for instance, with big emotions like getting really angry or getting really critical, that is, just to be very clear, unhealthy behavior. If you use it as a tactic to see how the other person will react. Um, but you do that because you want them to just be there for you unconditionally. You want them to still love you even if you react in such a way. So that fear of abandonment and a fear of rejection, where the anxious, preoccupied person usually, mostly, just tries to do everything that the other person wants and tries to be the complete version of themselves that the other person wants. A fearful avoidant attached person would actually go, how do you say that, head first into this and try to elicit or create that abandonment or that rejection, because in that way you have the control. And this might sound really weird because you're so afraid of being rejected and being abandoned, but the not knowing, the insecurity of that, the uncertainty of that is actually harder for the fearful avoidant than the experience of the rejection and the abandonment. So what a fearful avoidant would do um, is to start behaving in a way where they expect to be rejected or be abandoned, and to see if that happens, just to test if they are safe and to deal with that uncertainty and to kind of get a sense of power and control back, which is very important when you are not healed yet in the fearful avoidant attachment style. You really are yearning for that power and that control because that gives you a certain type of safety. And then a second reason why you test is because there is a core belief that I am bad or I am fundamentally flawed. And you believe that when your partner finds out something about you, when they come closer and they find out who you really are, then they will leave you. And so you kind of portray your worst behavior sometimes just to um, see if they see that you are bad and that you are fundamentally flawed, and whether then they would leave or not. So you are actually acting out this core wound because you believe that this is so, and they will find out sooner or later. And this is how those beliefs actually manifest in reality, because you start behaving in accordance to that core belief, with that core belief, and then seeing if your partner will stay with you or not. Again, testing whether you are safe. And then the third one is there's also a belief that I hurt others and I can't be trusted. And therefore, you sometimes just push your partner away to show them, you see, I hurt others. I'm a bad person. You can't trust me. You have to learn that. And so I am pushing you away and I'm being mean. That is um, testing whether they are up for that challenge almost, and to see what their reaction is. So these are all underlying. I'm not done yet with the list, but these are all underlying testing behaviors, which can range from just saying something and seeing how your partner reacts to full-blown emotional, intense outbursts. That can also be seen as testing. Then a fourth reason why you test is you don't want to get too comfortable in the relationship. And so you are creating tension again. You are creating drama in a way, to stay on your toes, to keep yourself alert, and to see if this is really a perfect relationship, because you only allow yourself perfection because you find safety. You think you find safety in perfection. And this can happen actually in moments where and everything is going well. You're having a really nice, lovely evening with your partner, and all of a sudden you start testing them. You start testing your compatibility. You start testing whether they are funny enough. You start testing whether they love you enough, whether they're romantic enough. And you think you're doing this because you're working towards a solution. You're thoroughly looking to see if this relationship is the right one. But what could actually be happening is that in that moment, you are getting uncomfortable because it feels comfortable. Because it just feels good, and good feels too good to be true. And it could be that your body is just not acquainted with feeling good, feeling stable, feeling happy, feeling comfortable. And so your fear brain just kicks into gear and it starts looking for something that could be wrong. And that could be just ruminating and worrying and having doubts, but it could also mean that you start, you know, pricking the relationship. Is that a word? That's probably not a word. But you start kind of testing the relationship. Um, and it's also a way for yourself to not get too comfortable, because a lot of fearful avoidants are afraid that if they have something good, it will get taken away because they don't deserve it. So testing, and therefore creating that distance and pushing your partner away, because that is a lot of times what happens when you're testing, that creates safety in the sense that you are less afraid of them being taken away. If you create drama, if you create fights, if you create an uncomfortable feeling around the relationship, your fear brain believes that it will hurt less when it gets taken away. And then the last one, I mean, I could go on and on and on about this, but the last one I want to mention right now is that your body can actually be addicted to drama. It can be addicted to chaos. It can be addicted to intense emotional situations. And so you test your partner, and then you pick a fight, or you have an intense emotional reaction to it. And in a way, that is almost like getting your fix. Um, so that could also be a reason why you're testing. But the main reason why you test is just to check, is this person for real? Is he or she going to stay with me? Am I safe? But then the interesting thing is that you won't allow your partner to really come close. So, for instance, you just tested your partner, you had a big fight, and then you made up and you feel okay. And what can happen then is that you go into the shame part of this cycle, because it is a cycle. And the shame part of the cycle means that you completely retreat, you shut off, and you kind of hide in a way. And this can happen without you really even noticing it. It can be that you actually get physically sick or very tired and you have to just retreat physically. But it usually um, goes with thoughts like, I don't deserve my partner, I don't deserve this relationship, I'm a bad person, I'm horrible, and when you know more about the fearful avoidant attachment style, it could even be like, I have this horrible attachment style and I will never be healed, and what is my partner doing with me? And um, you just feel super guilty, like aren't even you don't even deserve to have this relationship, to be here, and you feel like a bad person. And this is such a tricky thing, right? Because first of all, it's very logical that you believe this, seeing as how the fearful avoidant attachment style develops in your youth. It is not true though. It is so not true. And the shame part of the cycle fuels the testing part of the cycle. And what I mean by that is that when you believe that you are a bad person and you start having these thoughts and kind of almost belittling yourself and badgering yourself about having had an emotional outburst or having been mean, that will create more of that behavior, because a lot of this comes from shame and from not truly believing that somebody could love you and could be with you and could want to be with you and could be there consistently and not leave you and not reject you. And so these two just kind of keep reinforcing each other. You go into shame, you completely retreat and hide and shut off because you feel like such a worthless and bad person. And then when you kind of like get out of that, you start getting comfortable again, and that belief that you are a bad person is still there. And so your partner is with you and you're like, what is he or she doing here? Why are they still with me? This is what I definitely had looking back in the crash state of my fearful avoidant attachment style, that I would continuously go through this cycle where I would just create tension, create drama, create pain in a way. And then I would be so hard on myself for having hurt Ari in that way, that I would affirm to myself in a way. So use these affirmations that I'm a bad person, I'm horrible, I don't deserve him, I should just break up because it's better for them. And that just reinforced that belief that I was bad. And so when we would have a good, beautiful moment, I would start testing again, not believing that I could actually have his unconditional love. And so it's this cycle that just continues and continues. But another reason why you test and then go into the shame is because it breaks connection. And it's almost like hitting a pause button on the connection, which for fearful avoidance is just has a lot of negative associations. A lot of fearful avoidance are very scared of connection, even though you want it or you think you want it. And testing, pushing your partner away, creating a situation where you have to get out of together again, and then going into the shame cycle. The testing almost is like it's allowing you to go into that shame and retreat and take time for yourself in a way. So it's very important to know that going into that shame, spiraling into that shame, can also be a way of creating space for yourself and just having a break from connection. Because when you know that and when you start realizing that, you won't need the pushing your partner away or being mean or testing them. You can just say, oh, wait, I think I need some time for myself. I'm just gonna take a minute. I was gonna say another thing about shame. What was it? Don't know. Might come back to me. So recognizing both of these, oh yeah, what I wanted to say was the way to break through this cycle is self-compassion and empathy. And I know that sounds almost too soft, too easy, to just be kind to yourself, but because that shame is the driver of this whole cycle, and feeling so unworthy is the driver of this whole cycle, your breakthrough is in the moments where you dive into that shame, where you start telling yourself a different story. All right, the way I reacted just now was not the way I wanted to. I was testing my partner. I didn't want to do that. I am learning. I am in a process of healing. I am going to forgive myself. I truly was doing the best I could, because if I could do better, I would do better. And I am just going to take a moment, write it out in my brain dump book. So just write it down in a big book where you can just get your thoughts out, and then recreate the story and say to yourself, okay, I'm hurt and I just reacted from a hurt place, from pain, from trauma. I am working on that. I am healing. I am doing my best. This is actually how I would have wanted this evening to go, or this situation to go. And then you rewrite that story so that it kind of creates new neural pathways in your brain. It kind of creates a new scenario in your brain where your fear brain kind of gets used to that. So you could rewrite the story where you were having a lovely evening on the couch and you were actually feeling the connection, and then at the moment you started testing, you could rewrite it to it felt a little scary almost, that I felt such a sense of connection, but I turned it into excitement and I allowed myself to really feel that feeling and just allow my fears to be there. And I started talking to myself and comforting myself, and then had a beautiful conversation with my partner about this, and we ended up having a lovely evening, and that feels so good. So you start rewriting that story, and that starts in the shame part, where you don't be so hard on yourself, where you don't badger yourself, where you don't criticize yourself so harshly. So you start with compassion, you start with empathy, and you start forgiving yourself. And from that place, you will see that it is easier and easier to just not test, and to see your worth and affirm that, please, also, that you are so worthy and you are so valuable. Even if you don't know why your partner is with you, they are with you for a reason, and they see something that you might not be able to see. So start affirming those things to yourself and start rewriting the story. If you need time for yourself, that's completely fine. And it is also okay to feel the pain of the fear of rejection. It is okay to feel the pain of the fear of abandonment. I think every human being on planet Earth feels that from time to time. Um, and you don't have to act on it. So the next step, as you start rewriting these stories, as you start healing the fearful avoidant attachment style, is to notice when you want to start testing, when you want to start eliciting a certain reaction from your partner, and to just feel what is coming up. Are you uncomfortable with the fact that it is actually going quite well? Are you triggered by something that happened before and you just want to test how much they love you? And just see if you can accept those sensations, the sensations in your body, without attaching so much story to it. So those are, I guess, 2 steps. Start rewriting the story from shame to compassion, self-compassion, and empathy, and then start recognizing as a second step the moments you want to test, and just stay with your feelings and with the sensations in your body. All right, this was the testing versus shame cycle. Was this clear? Let me know in the comments below. And if you really want to break through this and really heal this fearful avoidant attachment style at the root, so that you don't even have this urge to test and don't have to hold yourself back from going into that shame spiral, but just that happening naturally, that self-compassion and that self-empathy, please check out the online program Healed and Happy. It's in the link in the description below. You can find more info, because there we really do go to the roots of this fearful avoidant attachment style. We release all these negative core beliefs and these negative core wounds that create this testing versus shame cycle. It is time to release the shame. All right. Thank you so much for being here. As always, let me know in the comments below whether this was valuable to you, and I will see you in the next one.